Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you guys doing? I see that the chat is buzzing. People are saying very ready. So I am so glad to have you guys. Hi, Gramford. Hi, Burns Blade. Hi, Haley Catpause. Hi, Soy Valentino. Hi, Riza. Hi, MA Designer. So nice to see you guys. I love seeing all your familiar names and faces and chats. It feels like I'm coming back to a friend. Speaking of friends, I have August here with a new cool haircut. August, tell me your inspiration. Were you inspired by someone or did you just want to get it all off? Buzz it.
Well,
Do it.
originally I wanted a mullet, a full mullet, and then I was like, maybe I'll just do a half mullet, and then I ended up doing a 3/4 mullet or a three.
Yeah, I know. I remember just maybe a week ago, August was in the live and he did this and he showed us how long his hair is and stuff. But now this side is all gone. Next week, you guys are going to see me with this side off.
We're gonna do some kind of
Yeah.
cyber style thing.
We were just chatting right before the stream and August had the funniest idea ever. He's like, what if our asset library was just a library, and just like when you're checking out books, only one person can check out the assets at the same time? Should this be our April Fool's Day joke? I feel like that would be hilarious, but we'll also get so many complaint tickets. But imagine if it also tells you like the username of like, this asset has been rented by Magical Celery. This asset has been rented by Ago Doggo Games. Well, that was just our little spiel before we get into the lessons. But for those of you joining for the first time in office hours, this is where we answer all your technical questions. So if you have any questions that you want us to answer, please let me know. But in the meantime, I have a little poll going. What is your favorite McDonald's menu? Apple pie is winning with 53%. Oh, it just went down to 50%. Nobody voted for the McRib, which is sad because I love the McRib. I dearly wait for McRib to come back to season every year. And then it's McNuggets and Big Mac. For me personally, when I was in Korea, when I lived in Korea, there were so many like good McDonald menus that they don't have here. I think it was called Shanghai Spice, like Shanghai Spice, but it was supposed to be like a spicy chicken sandwich kind of menu, and they don't have it here. So I'm really sad, and I want to hear about what McDonald menus that they have in your region or what your favorite McDonald menu is. So please leave it in the chat so we can all enjoy it together and you can tell us a little bit more about what your favorite McDonald menu is. Hi, Reem. Welcome. Hi, Freedom1771. Ooh, Soy Valentino says, I just created an effect in Effect House. I want to know what you made. Please drop a link or write a description or put the name of the effect so we can check it out. Thank you so much for coming. Good morning. Burnsbait says it's good night on this side. Thank you for joining us. Good night. Okay, August, my first question is from the forums. They're asking, is there a way to get a color value from a pixel/area?
Should we do the Microjam Sneak Peek first since I have it open?
That is such a good reminder. Last week, you guys, we said for those of you who are joining Effect House office hours, we're going to give you a sneak peek of the Microjam project. And we're here to keep our promise. August has brought his latest Microjam that is currently unreleased. And we're going to show you a little sneak peek. August, I'm so excited. Take it away.
Sorry, I just muted because of the giant trash truck right outside of my window. I think it might be
But it's now a
done.
staple. That's how people know that we're in a live. Our iconic trash truck.
It makes yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Okay. Let's see. What do we got here? What do we have here? Well, let's just pop it open and hit restart so you can take a look. We've got a pretty basic game where you can drag and drop some assets and the sound effects of the truck make it feel like you're a farmer in the edges of the outer city. And as you can see, the little gauges fill up based on what you're giving the flower. As the flower's gauges drop, it dies. The main focus that we care about here is the drag and drop stuff, because previously, if you would look in the asset library, you might find some subgraphs. And I think this is a great place to check back every once in a while. Oh no. The asset library has a subgraph section that I can't connect to. My internet must be weak. But just trust me that, okay, there we go. Visual scripting. So in the visual scripting section, there is I think it's called draggable image. And this is one of the first subgraphs, and I'll just show it to you. It's pretty straightforward, very useful for the most basic use case, but then it kind of don't need two of them. It kind of has some flaws for more complex use cases. So I wanted to make one that actually works with games and that you could use for complex setups, and that has a couple options, and then make a bunch of other subgraphs that revolve around this mechanic so that you can make a bunch of different stuff. So the draggable image, as you can see, you just select an item and it'll let you drag that image around. So if we just selected the whole flower here, then that flower becomes draggable too. We don't want that, obviously. Get that out of here. So if you take a look over here, it might look more complicated, but really it's exactly the same. If you want to use this, all you have to do is add your scene object in this selectable panel. Everything else is pre-configured, and it'll work the exact same way. It'll instantly become a draggable object. There's a couple options here that you can use, like snap to center. If you check this, it'll act like the old one, and when you grab an object, it would snap it to center. So look, if I click on the edge of the water can, it'll snap it to wherever I'm holding. If you wanted to make a game where you're fitting puzzle pieces together, for instance, you might want to be able to grab it from the edge and have it not snap. I think that's the preferable way, honestly. The other thing is that you can have these global grab events. And this is just a way to keep the different subgraphs in sync. So say that you have 3 different touch drag and drops, and they're not just snapping back into their own places. You could create a variable called isTouchEmpty, or call it whatever you want, just a Boolean variable. And then you could plug it into each of these, and then it will say, am I already grabbing something else if there's like a stack of items or if they're overlapping, and it'll only grab one of those items, which I think is a huge bug that I've seen in a lot of game effects, where it kind of breaks the game sometimes. Once 2 objects overlap, you can't really pick one of them up anymore. So this will solve that problem. So you'll only pick one up and you can move them around, shuffle some stuff around. The second section here is how objects will interact with other objects. And this could be sort of almost a replacement for what you would normally use 2D colliders for, something like that. So this just takes in a hovering object and a hover zone. So the hover object is whatever object you're dragging and dropping. You could use this for whatever you want, but in this context where it's using drag and drop, we're going to just use the watering can over our interaction zone. And if you take a look at the interaction zone, if we turn it on, you can see what it looks like. But really, it's just to define a zone where once the watering can is overlapping with that zone, it's going to interact with the flower. So this is just, hey, is this object over another object or area or screen transform? So that's very useful. It'll output some events like start, stay, stop. And these will tell you when you start hovering, when you continue hovering, and when you stop, so that you can do things like this water can animation. This is just kind of a one-off subgraph where I'm doing things like rotating the water can and making it larger whenever it's watering. And then notice that we don't put any events out because we don't really care. This is just something happening on the side. But with the on hover, we want it to affect other things like the plant health. So when it's hovering, it's also applying water, as I called it. So this is what adds some blue amount to the gauge to give plant health. And it also, there's a number keeping track of the plant's health as well. Lastly, this is the third pretty useful subgraph. And I think a lot of people will use in different cases. For this one, I'm just using it on start. I'm setting a snap point, and that's wherever the watering can started. So on start, I'm just making sure that it registers this snap point, and the snap point is where it's going to snap back to when you let go of it. So you don't have to do this on start. We've set it up in a way where you can change it as it moves. Maybe you could set it up so it snaps to a grid, wherever the closest grid position is that you let go. And it'll keep updating that as you move it. Maybe you could set this to a predefined set of points, which I'll show you something else that I'll put in the asset library to help with that. And then this transition speed, basically this is the amount of time that it'll travel across the entire screen. So if you did drag something from one corner to another corner, it'll take 0.5 seconds. And then it'll adjust that so that it doesn't just like go super slow when it's very close. And these are the main points, the main parts. And then there's some bonus stuff that I don't really want to give away, but I think it'll be really fun and inspiring to encourage people to use drag and drop, replace this drag and drop with a completely replaceable other type of drag and drop using some other events other than just touching the screen. And I think they're really fun, and I can't wait to see the games that people create with those. So
I am really excited for this project because I want to build do you guys know about Tamagotchi, where it's like a little thing, like a plastic thing, and you have to like raise your thing by giving it food, giving it attention, love, and hug. So I want to build my own Tamagotchi, and all of the little panels on the left, the sun and the water sprinkling thing, is going to be like food, love, affection, play. So basically build myself a little Tamagotchi in here. I feel like it would be so cute. And we'll have a timer on top, and each level will like have a different requirements, and we'll see how long people can keep this Tamagotchi alive. I think that would be so funny.
Tamagotchi is the OG pet.
It is.
But yeah, this is the one thing I wanted to mention, this find closest position. I think we'll add this to the asset library visual scripting section as well. You can just add a list of objects, and it'll find the closest object, and it'll output that position and that object. So if you wanted to use this with that on hover, with the on hover and with the snap to point, then you can make this kind of list of places. You could create a list of objects that represent where it will snap back to. So this isn't in this project, but I do want to share it in the asset library because I think it's super useful paired with these. Yeah.
Okay. August, I thought you were giving a sneak peek, not a whole reveal of Microjams. But I'm glad that you showed it. I think everybody is super excited. Haley Cat Paws is beyond excited. Yay, can't wait to see the next sneak peek. And everybody's saying thank you. Reem saying looks so cool. So many ideas can be made. So I think everybody is super excited.
Yeah, I really think it's more of like a touch toolkit.
Yeah, it is. Okay, let's move on to the questions. Reem in the YouTube live chat has a question. Reem is asking how to increase the speed over time for an object that loops from one X position to another X position.
That loops from one position to another, speed up the time. Does it need, yeah. So my first thought is using a transit by time. And so from one X position to another, you would want to ping pong it if you want it to go back and forth. And let's turn this to vec2, and we'll just create a default object. So we've got this default object. Let's shrink it down so that it can easily move around. And we'll just say on start, we will set the position of this object, but through the transit by time. And then we can define some positions. We'll just say it stays the same on the Y, and it moves from -20 to 20. And then let's see, the duration. Notice this is a good thing to realize so you don't spend time trying to debug. But if the duration is set to 0, whenever you trigger transit by time, the end node and the stay node will not trigger, basically. Or if they do, they give you the from position rather than the to. Or just, yeah, as we can see here, it's just nothing actually. But yeah, good to note in case you're like, why isn't it going from -20 to 20? You just haven't set the time yet. So we've got 2 seconds set on this, and it'll do one loop. And what we want to do is let's create a variable that holds the time, the duration. So set and get. I would create this variable that at the start, we can define that 2, and then we can say once the first transition ends, we will take this variable and we'll subtract 0.1 from it. And then we'll set it. So this is where it gets a little wacky. Whenever you have a transit by time and you're trying to do something and then start it over, you kind of have this crisscross at the top. There's not usually a better way to do it. And then make sure to plug in our new duration here. And then every time it finishes, the duration will lower by 0.1. So it'll move a little bit faster. And I think the hard thing here is that I thought 20 pixels was a lot. It's kind of hard to see. And we could also make it a little easier to see. So as you can see, it's speeding up a little bit. 1.6 second duration, 1.5 second duration. And it's going faster and faster each loop. This could be very useful. At a certain point, the duration becomes negative, and then I don't know what happens there. But that's the point where if you wanted to, you could just say if greater than 0. So if your duration is still greater than 0, and then instead of directly triggering the start again, we go into this if, and only if the duration is greater than 0 will we re-trigger it. And then otherwise, it just stops once that duration goes too low. This is how I would do it initially, and then maybe come up with a more polished way if needed. But this does the job. Yeah.
I think that was very helpful. Thank you. Reem, if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. Damon is asking, why is it not possible to change the mesh in the face mask mesh renderer tab? It used to be able to. I want to use it to morph or, the deformation, the face for makeups.
So I know that with the 3D face, it's been changed pretty recently, but as long as you don't change the UV and as long as you don't change the number of vertices, it should be able to have shape keys or blend shapes, and you should be able to export that, and it should work fine. If that's not the case, maybe we should look into it and double check that that still works. As far, yeah. We'll have to look into that. But it should work fine as long as you use shape keys. So let us know if all you're doing is adding a shape key and exporting, if that doesn't work. Otherwise, yeah, changing the UVs. If you take a look in your program, in your modeling program, changing the UVs will actually change the number of vertices, which prevents the algorithm from reading the mesh correctly.
Oh my gosh, we have a wonderful comment from Haley Kapaz. She says she was working on something similar to a Tamagotchi a while ago, but never published it. Maybe this microjam will make it even better to publish.
Yeah, totally make it. This is the season of Tamagotchis. This is the season of digital pets, I mean.
Yes, it is. I mean, we just had Peridot, which was really cool. Oh my gosh, this subgraph and idea would have been so cute and funny for a Peridot challenge. It's okay. We have many more challenges upcoming. Speaking of, we have a Halloween challenge that's been going on. So if you guys haven't submitted already, go try it. I love Halloween, and I'm very looking forward to seeing all of your effects that you guys are going to publish. Natalie is saying, amazing haircut, August.
Thank you.
We love it. Joshua19 is saying, hello, Celine and August. Welcome back, Joshua19. Joshua19 is saying, you have probably seen it on Discord, but again, thanks for helping me with the 2D joystick microjam, August. That's so nice. Thank you, August.
Oh yeah, if anybody else hasn't looked at the joystick microjam, I added some new subgraphs after seeing multiple people asking for certain things, just to convert it from the XY axis to now it outputs just the X axis, and the up and down will trigger up and down events, kind of like Mortal Kombat jumping and ducking style. So if that inspires anybody to download that extra subgraph, it might be helpful for your games.
Mm-hmm. Ruya is asking on YouTube Live, I haven't been able to find much info about ray marching or raycast on documentation. Can you give me a basic example of hitting a target, like spear hitting a plane and getting the info to do something?
Yeah. So we also did some raycast examples last week. So we might also point to that, but let me open up. Should I open a fresh project, or just maybe I can just?
I think so.
Turn this stuff off. So yeah, let's just call this cube our spear, and we'll call this plane our target. This cube. So yeah, while I'm doing this, I'll explain. So raycasting and ray marching are pretty different. Ray marching usually is almost kind of like a raycast that's happening inside of a shader for determining like lighting and rendering, like what colors things will be with different multiple lights applied and stuff like that. Something like that. Yeah, but raycasting is kind of a more general, it's like the idea of checking from one point to another point if something is in between them or if something is in that direction. So the raycasting is what we can kind of do in game development, whereas ray marching might be more of what we could do if we're like designing complex 3D shaders that are like really high fidelity. Like think of like AAA games with like shiny suits of armor. But yeah, here's our raycast node. Much simpler. So raycast, you basically are defining the origin of the ray. So that would be wherever our spear is, and then the direction, whichever direction our spear is facing. And then the length is how far we want to test with that. And then once we have these 3 points defined, it should check against any other 3D collider. And then when it hits, we'll have this ray hit Boolean say true. And then we can have this hit info array. And this is because you could have like 3 planes in a row or 3 objects overlapping each other, and this raycast goes through all of them. You might have an array of multiple objects that were hit. So that's why you have this hit info array. But we'll probably only care about the first one in the array. So get item from array. Here's the hit info array, and then we'll just say index 0 just for this example. But if you care a lot and you're doing a lot of complex games, you might have a game where you're going through the whole array, which becomes a little more complex because you have to use a for loop to go through all of them. But we're just going to check this one. Okay, so we can see up here in this window we can switch between local and world, and it doesn't change right now because the objects are aligned. But the arrows here, you probably understand this for the most part, but this is the Y direction of the cube, the Z direction, and the X direction. So that makes it easier for us to determine the direction that we want of this raycast by using the, world transform info. So this will give us our up, right, and forward. These are those 3 arrows that you see right there. So for our sphere, we can select it here, and then suddenly we know what those arrows are, and those will be our direction based on how we want this sphere to look. So let's see. Let's say that it goes in the Y. A lot of programs will say the Z direction is the forward, but as you can see, we can just define it however we want. So we'll just make this look more sphere-y. And then and then that arrow upward, that's going to be what we're checking. So I think the origin will be the world position. And then let's just add it to the tip, right? So that up, I think this is going to be up, the green one. So we're going to add, maybe this is too much for a simple example, but basically I'm just saying the up direction, we want to just multiply it by 1/2. Is that right? How tall are these cubes? I can't remember. Is it 4 units? We'll just say, we'll cut it in 1/2 since it's 1/2 of a cube. And then we can fine tune that in a bit. So then we have the up direction plus that center value. So then that shifts this is the tip of our arrow. That's our origin. Because that makes a little more sense in the physical concept of it. And then our up direction is that green arrow. So that up direction is also the direction that we're checking with our raycast. So it's very helpful to, like I mentioned, just look in the scene view and get an idea of these and remember to match them up to your world transform info. And that helps you kind of think about it a lot more easily with these nodes. Raycast type all. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know exactly how much this affects it, the all or near. If it should stop at the nearest object it hits. Okay, so this will make sure that it only hits one object and then it stops raycasting. So unless you really need it to keep raycasting through all the objects and you're using the for loop, switch this to near, because otherwise you don't need it. Like if you're just checking the first one it hits, then just test the first one it hits, and that'll save that'll make it more optimized, more likely to pass the test performance and everything. Okay, so the length, we can just set that to 9999 since we're only doing near. If you had like 100 objects and you were doing ray type all, then you would maybe make this shorter. For instance, if you're in like some kind of space shooter game and it's doing a short shotgun blast, this is where you could change the length to whatever that blast is. But for this, we're just checking, is this, yeah, is there something in front of the spear? And then we can do another check as well. So yeah, you might actually make this really short if you're just testing for the spear tip as well. Okay, so probably you want to do this every frame. Be careful with this. Raycasting every single frame. If you do it with like a bunch of objects on a bunch of other objects, you might have some troubles with performance. And we'll add component, 3D physics, box collider. I don't think we need, do we need rigid bodies? I don't think so. So I'll just test it with these box colliders. And then one thing to do while you're just setting up, always use peak nodes just to test it before you dive too deep in with the logic. So we can just see, is it hitting anything? And currently it's not. So then if we come out here, whenever the spear is lined up with this plane, we should be able to see this data ray hit Boolean turn to true once this spear faces it, right? So if we rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, it should, there we go. So, and we can switch this to local view if we want to see the arrows move with the objects, which is great, like I said, for raycasting. Okay, so it's pointing here. So now we say, okay, this hit is happening when the spear is pretty far away. So what do we want? What do we do to make it only hit when it's actually there, actually right in front of it? What if we set this length to 1? Now you can see it's the Boolean value is not there. So as we drag it closer, we'll see closer, closer, closer. Once it gets within 1, maybe okay. So that's pretty close, pretty close. So then I would say instead of this, we want to multiply this by so that the units are 4. And that might be close. That might be a better representation. Now we can see it's a little closer to the tip. Okay, so it's about right here. So it's about halfway. So I think if we multiply this by 4, actually, it'll be basically right on the tip. And sometimes you have to do these experiments to figure out like the actual size. Oh yeah, you can see box collider 8. So the width of the cube is 8. So that means this length from the center to the edge is going to be 4. So this should line up pretty nicely to where when the tip gets within 1 unit of the top, now that hit happens. And then lastly, let's see, what are the other physics nodes? Hit info, ray hit info. This is a way to get the details out of that info from this array. So once you grab the 0 index ray hit info from this array, you can plug in this array hit info node to get all the data out of it. So you can check which scene object it was. You can check, let's see, the distance, hit distance, rigid body. You can get all these things. So for instance, if this was an exploding arrow and the target that you hit, you could maybe grab this rigid body and apply some force to it. And so that wall would like blow out of the way. Something like that. You could grab the rigid body of the other object. You could grab the scene object, the other scene object, collider, turn it off if you don't want anything else to hit it anymore. All these things are very accessible. And then the hit normal might be very valuable if you want the object to bounce off of that. So the hit normal is going to be the direction that it was facing against the wall of that collider. So that makes it, you can just like kind of use that to make it bounce back in the same direction or bounce in a realistic kind of way. But yeah, so this is kind of an overall how I would use a raycast, these raycast nodes. I think there's a ton of different things you can do with them. So some of these things that I'm showing you are like how you would do this scenario, but maybe there are some other totally different ideas that you could use the same exact nodes for. They're very flexible. I hope that covers the raycast questions of kind of how to use it.
I think it was very informative. Franny has a right hand emoji and is saying literally taking notes. And people are saying, I never knew the arrows meant anything. Thought they were just for moving stuff and sizing. So I think you've done an excellent job in explaining. Ruya also says, thank you so much with a party emoji. So thank you, August. We have another question from MA3 Designer. They're asking, when we link a 3D model to the face info point, how can we adjust its Z depth? It seems to maintain the same size whether the person is close to or far from the camera.
You know what? Maybe I could bring up a personal project where I made some subgraphs for this.
A personal project. Oh my gosh, we love seeing it.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to see this configuration and take a screenshot, now's the time. And then I'll
Can you save it and we can share it to Discord?
Sure.
Thank you.
um, live demo.
Speaking of, our poll is still going on. On the YouTube side, we have a poll called Favorite McDonald's Menus. Number one is winning with apple pies at 44%. Then it is McNugget with 28%. Then we have Big Mac with 19%. And my favorite, McRib, only scrounging by the low number of 9%. Guys, you guys don't like McRib? If you haven't already, please vote. And if you guys are in the TikTok live side, just let us know in the comment what your favorite McDonald's menu is: apple pie, McRib, McNugget, Big Mac, or any local special McDonald's menu that we haven't tried. I would love to hear it.
Is this sponsored by McDonald's?
Oh my gosh. Effect House in the TikTok live chat just admitted confession. We never ate a McRib. You guys have never ate a McRib before? Maybe that's why the popularity is so low, but I love a McRib. We gotta get one.
I need a McRib now.
Yes,
I'm hangry.
I am too. I'm hungry. I forgot to eat breakfast. Oh, this effect that August is about to show off is one of my favorites that he's ever made because it's so fluid, it looks so beautiful, the shapes are forming, and if you have two people, it actually merges and changes color, which is epic.
Oh yeah, take a look at let's get the I think these two people are close enough.
Oh, fusion, brain fusion.
But if we take a look at the people a little further away, yeah, they're just at the threshold where sometimes they lean away, sometimes they lean into it, so you can kind of see the transition. But yeah, so for this one, it's all 2D screen space. It's all inside of a shader, but I did a lot of things to calculate with the face info node how to do different things, like get it to stay the same size on the face, even though it's not 3D at all. As you can see, the only camera we really have is a 3D camera, but it's just rendering a plane. Because this was before I realized you could just put a material in a 2D image, which is probably better. Okay, so what I wanted to show was, let's go into the two face. Wait, no. Yeah, as you can see, this does not look like a microjam. With my own projects, I only encapsulate them as much as I need to. But I made this face info, face info, rect info. I don't know how I named this, but basically it takes the face info here of the rect, and it'll convert it to a width and a height. And this doesn't do too much, so I'll just show you how to do it because you don't need this subgraph. I just needed to like shrink certain parts down so that they fit together in a readable way. Yeah, so real quick, notice how this is organized. There's not too many lines overlapping. The point of this here isn't to make this a modular chunk. It's more to make it smaller. So sometimes you can do that and it makes it more readable. Yeah, just a tip. So this just takes that rect, and if you look at the rect, all it is the X and Y position of the top left corner of the face and the width and the height. So you can get that width, and then here's another one. I thought I had a different face info. I guess I'm just taking the center position. So you take this center position and you can use that width from the rect, which is literally just the Z number when you split it into a vec4. So all I'm doing is taking a rect type, converting it to vec4 in the static convert, and then I'm splitting that vec4 so that I can grab just the width out of the Z number, the third number. And that face width will basically be the same as your Z depth for most purposes. It won't probably be as accurate as a head tracker, but almost as accurate. It's good enough. So then that Z depth, let's try it with, that's how I'm moving it in the Z plane. So let me just, maybe I'll just create a new project to make a very simple example. Yeah, don't save. It's a pretty big project, to be honest. A lot of shader stuff. So let's just add a 2D thing and we'll make it move with the head. That was also a little bit of a refresher for me to remember exactly what I was doing.
Sometimes I look in old projects that I made and I'm like, how did I make this? Is the me from the past a genius and now I'm super dumb?
So pull this into there. It'll auto create that data convert. You're not dumb, Celine. None of us are dumb. Look what we're doing with wires and boxes.
That's why we need to keep a proper documentation. So even if you look later, you know exactly how you made it and stuff. Keep everything in comment boxes, everyone.
Okay, so I'm going to do an update on this because I know I'm going to set it. So we're setting the position of the screen image to the face 0. Oh, but we need, yeah, just, I guess when we announce the Microjam is when we'll show this, but I have a subgraph that I've used in almost every single project that has 2D, which is most of my projects. It's just called screen to pixel. I've polished it a little more with the naming of stuff, but basically it just takes these positions and values that come out of here are like normalized 0 to 1. This just converts it to the pixel space that the screen transform uses. So as you can see, it was like stuck to the center. That's because it's using like a 0 to 1 value. So 0 to 1 in pixel space just keeps it at that like center space, right? So this just converts it to that 720 by 1280 default that Effect House uses. So yeah, this I'll put this in the asset library. And so you can see it's stuck to the person's face, but is it really going to stay at the correct size? Well, we use this number here as the scale. And if you don't want to use scale, you can do the same thing with size. You just would have to capture the size at start into some variable to have like a reference and multiply by that. But yeah, we can, well, let's see, this Z number, what do we need it to do? Multiply it by something or maybe even remap it. Yeah, let's do a remap. Remap works perfectly for this. So this Z number is the face width, right? So the widest the face can get. And I always just test this on my own with putting my face here. It's like 1. It's a little more than 1 width of the whole screen. And then here, it's like 0.4. So I'll just say the smallest it can get is 0 if it's totally far back, and the closest it can get is 1. And then the output min, so the scale when it's 0, the current, let's find the perfect position. We want it to be exactly this size. So this is when it's 0.4. So we want to say, we'll just say 0.5. We're just guesstimating at this point. And then when it's fully here, I think we need it to be about 3 times its current scale. So we'll do that. And then this is kind of how we do remapping. We're just kind of guessing and tweaking the values. And then you could do a little math and calculate it if you want to, if it needs to be super accurate. But for the most part, this works. Okay. So then our guesstimate on the size here might have been a little high. And maybe our output max is a little high. Okay. So as you can see, it stays pretty close. It looks like it gets a little larger than my face when I go farther away. So then you would just tweak the output min and max, because it's basically this is 0. Your face is never going to be 0 width on the screen. It's always going to be at least something. But this is like assuming you're going back away from the screen into infinity. So maybe we could say, what's that? This is 0.4. This is when I was at like 0.43 or something, right? Maybe we can assume that it's like that. And that would be how you map it. So yeah, that's what I was thinking of. You find 1 point here, so 0.44, and you find what scale you would want it to be. So like, okay, this is perfect. So we would say 1 when it's here. And then when you're all the way up here, you resize it until it looks how you want. So this would be closer to 2, right? So then that's where you would put in your max 2 is when it's at 0.82. So you change this 1 to 0.82 because that's the current width that you were seeing coming in. And then don't clamp it. And then it'll extrapolate the rest of the values on its own. That's what's great about remap, is when you don't clamp it, the values work for everything. Okay, so yeah, that's nice. So that is how you would do it. So take a look at what your input value is, and then make your output value fit. And then you have your input value, output value, and then do it for the max when your face is closer. Yeah, so that works pretty well. And now your 2D object moves in the Z plane in a way. You could also do this with movement in the Z if you have a 3D image. But if you have a 3D image, I assume you would just use head tracker. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions about that. Okay, this is our last question of the day. Soy Valentino is asking a question. I'm an effect house creator, but the bad thing is that I don't know how to create a 3D effect or anything else. I always create an effect with a face sticker. I think they want to improve. Do you have any tips for them, August?
My main tip would be to go through the templates, and it's fine to just like go through them and make simple things with them. But I highly suggest you go through the templates and look at the visual scripting and maybe try to find something that you don't know how to do and try to figure out how we did it in the templates. Because a lot of times we pay very close attention to what we're doing in the visual scripting so that it's like doing it the right way, doing it some way that we want to teach people how to do this. We're trying to use best practices. So the templates are a great example of how the best way to do it, at least for that current use case. Other than visual scripting, I would say go through the website learning resources and just take a day to just go through all the different features. There might be some features that exist that you didn't even know exist that might be perfectly matched with your skill set, and that might give you some inspiration or some drive to like dive deeper and polish your skills more. Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
I also have an advice. My advice is to use the asset library because I think the biggest part about using a 3D object and stuff is that it's so you don't know where to get them, or even if you get them, you don't know how to apply them. But we already have solved that problem for you guys by having things in the asset library. Carol, if you could go to my screen share page, I can actually show people how easy it is to add. Perfect. Carol. Perfect. Thank you, Carol. So if you go over here in the asset library, you can click into it and you can click 3D. And I'm going to try adding a hair. All I need to do is just press on the button and it will automatically be added to whatever project that I'm working on. So this is a super easy way to add 3D objects in your workflow. Try with this, and if you like it, you can definitely try to create your own assets or download assets from websites like Sketchfab. So this is my first advice. Try with this and let me know where you want to go next. Okay, and in the YouTube live, I also saw a question earlier about how to put an eyebrow that you can control. So, N, this answer is for you. This is our eyebrow editor template, and all I did was click on this 3D face, go down here, click on interactions, and under screen touch, we have an option called tap tap screen to cycle materials. So this one, cycle materials on tap. I'm just going to click it and it's going to add this subgraph. So all I'm going to do is put the materials that I want to use here. And then when you tap on the screen, it should change like this. So hopefully this was helpful. And now you can decide in which order everything is going. So try that method. If you want to change the material, so right now here I see I use the hand drawn eyebrow. What I'm going to do is go and find the material and change this texture. So this one to whatever eyebrow that you want to use so that you can use it like this. I hope that was helpful. And I know Filter Dank, you asked a question. For this one, August needs to be able to see the visuals. So we will answer your question in the next live. But we won't forget it. Don't worry. Let me know. Okay, I think that is the end of office hours today. Thank you guys for attending. As always, it's so lovely chatting with you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you haven't already voted, put your final votes in for your favorite McDonald's menu. McRib is still at 9%, but understandable because now I know that a lot of people haven't tried McRib. If you have tried McRib, it would be at 41% instead of the apple pie. But thank you guys for attending. August, do you have any final words?
Apple pie for life.
Your team apple pie? Okay, bye guys. Here, let me show you my cat. As always, this cat is leaving on October 31st, but here you guys can say goodbyes to my baby cat. Bye.
You baby.
Baby, bye bye.